for a man, who they're going to marry is someone they care about. They're scanning for complementary strengths. So they're looking for a partner who is good at what they're not good at, who's smart in ways they're not smart, who has abilities and talents that they don't have. And they're attracted to that because that's what's going to change the possibilities of their life.
Today on the Bliss Republic podcast, we've got Alison Armstrong with us. Alison is a sought-after speaker and a thought leader who has made it her mission to understand men. In 1991, she dedicated the time to study men to find out what's bringing out the worst in them and hopefully how to bring out the best. Her success in understanding men naturally led to understanding women's behavior and making it vital for the connections between the two. Through her seminars, books, online programs, and media contributions, she has been giving millions of people access to more fulfilling lives, loving relationships, stronger families, and productive organizations. Welcome to the Bliss Republic podcast.
Thank you. I love the name.
Thank you. I've had it for so long and it just at some point blended into the podcast. So the podcast came into my life by accident and then it just took over what was already there.
It may seem like an accident, but I'm familiar with the phenomenon.
How so? How so?
Well, I was an activist for the hungry and the homeless in Southern California. And I was in a seminar, and it was a colleague of mine who challenged the seminar leader with the question, why is it that men are wonderful in the beginning? So what happens in the first chapter of the Queen's Code to Kimberly actually happened to me. And where I realized, oh my gosh, I'm bringing out the worst in men. Thank goodness, right? Because otherwise they're jerks or a stronger word. So I was ecstatic to find out I may have something to do with how men were interacting with me. And it was just like a side gig, right? I was still an activist. I was still causing something called the Orange County Summit for Children. But I'm this little side gig for myself, listening to men and finding out how they were responding to women and how they're not responding to women and listening some more and making some connections and then getting called on emasculating them by the only woman whose life I envied. So yeah, I was still being an activist, which I think I was born that way, and just doing this thing on the side. And I never expected them to come together, let alone to converge. But it ended up doing that. Well, just the short story, I've just always stuck up for people who couldn't be heard. And the more I listened to men, the more I realized they can't be heard. That the filter women are listening through prevents men from being heard and prevents them from being seen and known. And it's extremely painful for them to be as honest as they can and speak up and why did you do that? And so they try to tell the truth and say why they did that. And then it's dismissed as like there's something terrible about it. And so I had to start telling women who men are because women couldn't hear men speak up for themselves. That's why our workshops began in 1995. It was close to 20 years since I started studying men that I could write the Queen's Code.
I also had a friend of mine, so she said, you have to connect with Allison. She personally submitted a question.
What's her first name?
Her name is Elise.
Okay.
So she said from the Queen's Code that there's the difference between men pulling away just to process, but then there's also men pulling away because they lost interest. And how can a woman tell the difference?
Okay, so part of the struggle, Laura, is her interpretation that they pulled away because they lost interest, which women will take that personally and think that means they're not interesting. So lost interest is one of those interpretations like ghosting, like they ghosted me. We have this fancy word for they didn't text back or they didn't.
They disappeared. They vanished.
Yeah. And so one of the things to understand is that depending on what a man is looking for, right? So if he's looking for a mate, for example, or he's looking for a girlfriend, a companion, a sex partner, a long-term lover, whatever he's looking for, they tend to sort more quickly than women do. We keep betting on potential, right? We see a deal breaker from the very beginning and we'll bet it in potential. What they've said, and I've tested this out, is between 30 seconds and 3 minutes into meeting a woman, they know what she can be to them.
Wow.
That doesn't mean everything will add up and she will be that, but they know what she can be. Yeah, they're highly perceptive, and as they get older, they know what they need and what they can't live with, and with the exception of too much sexual attraction, which too much sexual attraction on either side is always an exception. So if he's not too sexually attracted, he will conserve his energy and not pursue what he knows isn't going to turn out to where he wants to go. In a very primitive, instinctual way, we head towards too much sexual attraction instead of away, which would be more serving of our fulfillment and happiness and satisfaction. So I usually tell men if a woman is a 7 or more to him, he's probably going to be an idiot. And he's going to be afraid to lose her or let her get away, or which when men, oh boy, that's a whole other problem. What has men lie when they're afraid of losing us? Lying is a very good way to keep from losing us, they think. And women pretend. We have our own kind of lying. We pretend that things are okay with us because we're hoping they're going to change, and we don't want to blow it by letting them know it's not okay with us. There's a built-in inauthenticity in human beings to our detriment. So for Elise, I would just say, watch the conclusion that he lost interest. Maybe he didn't lose interest at all. Maybe he got sucked up into his work or into the health of his family, or maybe he was served with a lawsuit and it's taken him out, right? You don't know. And so the question that I would give people is, what would I do if he were my friend? Because then you're going to get the kindest answer. What would I do if you were my friend? Just checking that you're okay. If you don't want to go forward, that's fine. And if you don't respond, I'll assume you don't want to, but I'm hoping you're okay. And then you just leave it. Men are much more aware of the expenditure of energy than women are until we get older. They don't call you to tell you they're not going to call you again. They just don't call you again, but you don't know why. And we want to know why so we can fix it or prevent it again. But the pursuit of that, they don't see the point in spending more energy on explaining. It's never gotten them anywhere. So why should they bother?
And so women are way more impatient. And I believe women want to just get out of this state of feeling the tension of being emotional, right? And I can definitely say that from myself, that when something is in the unknown, I try to have an answer to what's going on.
Yes. Yeah. I would say human beings in general hate uncertainty. Unless they've caused it. And then it can be kind of titillating, like, oh my, what's going to happen? But mostly we want, it's a kind of feeling safe or feeling secure. And labeling is a way, like if we can name it, then we feel like we're in control of it and we can calm down. So we have a lot of names for each other, men and women, that just are for the purpose of, I have contained you And I don't have to wonder, and I don't have to be uncertain. I feel in control, even though it's a false certainty. And unfortunately, it does the other thing. It ends curiosity. Our explanations, our conclusions, our labels end curiosity. And it's more important than women think, because curiosity comes from the Greek word that means to care. And men have an acute awareness of the energy, the feel, if you will, of caring. So for a man to care is his biggest risk and his biggest expenditure of energy. And you got to hear that from Jack in the Queen's Code, in the surprising answer he gave to Kimberly on their first dinner date, right? About what happened to him. That was huge for him. And of course, his best friend teased him a lot about it because he could tell what had happened. And the term carefree, like to be free of caring, like, yay, I can just do whatever I want. But then if they don't care, then they don't have purpose. And they're not fully engaged. And then there's a sadness and a depression can set in. So there's a front and back in the hand of caring for men. And it's huge to them. To be cared for is like, it moves them in everywhere to be cared for. And so when we label and shut down curiosity, we're shutting down caring. We're shutting down any kind of reach, right? We're not reaching anymore. And reaching is an expression of caring. And when we stop, there's nothing for them to connect to except sexual attraction, which is never going to give women what they really need. I know you've read The Queen's Code. Have you read Making Sense of Men?
Not yet. I fully leaned into The Queen's Code.
I'm glad.
I loved it. There's one thing I want to say about it. I just feel storytelling is such a feminine way of sharing wisdom. And so I really, throughout the whole book, enjoyed the passing on from the grandmother to Kimberly and to Karen, just everything that's evolving, and just like the own perspective and wisdom and experience to be passed down in a certain way, and also in a certain container. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I discovered early on when I was trying to teach my sister-in-law about her husband. If you've read Keys to the Kingdom, which is the prequel to the Queen's Code, and it's about the stages of development, and her husband had become a king and she didn't know it. And she was treating him in a mothering kind of way, like she knew better than him. And I could see him rankling under it. And so I was trying to warn her, and she had no interest in what I was saying. And then I switched to telling her a story that a friend of mine and I had made up about men and what happens to a woman when she attaches to a particular man before having enough due diligence. It's a story called The Princess and the Swamp Rat. And and all of a sudden I had her attention. And it wasn't directly related to her situation, but I suddenly had her attention. And then I realized that stories are great because we're not in the hot seat. We can put ourselves in that character's shoes, right? And there's 8 points of view in the Queen's Code, and you can put yourself in any set of shoes that you want, and we can transform ourselves that way, right? Being willing to put ourselves in their shoes. But we don't have to. It's not forced on us, which would definitely qualify as what's normally known as feminine. There's no force in femininity. It's pure invitation. It's pure vagina. It's pure. It's an open space. Yeah. It's an invitation. There's zero force in it. It's a beautiful, powerful energy.
Yeah. When I was reading The Queen's Code, I came across a bit resistance on the topic that when men want sex, that we should provide it regardless of what we need. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure I agree to this, but then the follow-up was, and this is my favorite term, my absolute favorite new term, sexy time versus pumpkin time. And it all started making sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the Queen's Code does not teach to have sex regardless of what you need.
Yes. Yeah.
It teaches the opposite of that.
Exactly.
But it does talk about stop paying attention to whether you want to or not. You can cause wanting to, and it makes it a heck of a lot more fun. But yes, so just the way you said it, like, no, I would never teach that. Regardless of what you need, honor yourself first or all is lost.
Exactly. So just for everyone who's listening, to clarify, that was my first understanding and it was a misunderstanding. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, chapter 5. When I first started studying men, I thought they would talk about work and sports because that's what I'd heard them talk about. And as I learned how to listen to them and became what they would call safe to talk to, they didn't want to talk about work and sports. They wanted to talk about love and relationship and women and how much they need women and admire women and are confused by women and want to succeed with women and give women what they need. and they wanted to talk about sex. And I got desensitized to talking about sex because they wanted to talk about sex a lot. Mm-hmm. And they're so funny. They're like, let's get right to it. I mean, really, let's get right to it. Penetration. Let's get right to it. Blowjobs. Let's get right to it. Going down on a woman. Let's get right to it. Like they wanted to, and I'm like, okay, I understand and I'll go there. And when you're talking to this group of women, don't get right to it. Foreplay. Mm-hmm. Start from the outside and move in. Don't go right.
Yes, it can be very overwhelming, just to confirm that.
Yes, too intense. too intense. And I actually, after we had our sex and intimacy course for long enough, I knew to tell them, when you get to the question, because they got to pick the questions, right? Mm-hmm. And they loved the question, what makes a great blowjob? Mm-hmm. And how long is too long to go down on a woman? These were questions our participants had contributed. And they'd always be so excited and they wanted to start with it because it's so fun. Sex is like so fun to talk about to them. And I'd say, okay, I need you to at least do 2 questions each before you go there. And when you want to go there, oh, you have the question? Okay, look to me and I will nod if they're ready. Oh my gosh. It's like what shows up in chapter 5 of the Queen's Code, right? That it's fun. Sex is fun. And sexual energy makes them feel alive, right? Awake, alive, invigorated. It is such a contribution to them. So even talking about sex can, be a little bit. It's like a sip, right? of that energy that nurtures them so much.
And I think it's also widely misunderstood because what it provides to them, as you say, is much different to what it provides for women, because we feel close to our partner through connection.
Yeah, generally it comes down to most women need to feel connected to have sex be satisfying or fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And men can get connected through sex. I mean, I ended up cracking up about it because, a man with his wife will be like, hey, let's do it. And I've teased men, like, you think the whole world of sex is contained in you saying that, but you're the one that's been thinking about it, not us. You need to use more words. You need to create that world for us. But if a man is like, hey, honey, let's do it, she might be like, I need to connect first, so I should put it in.
It's not like electricity where you put it.
Yes, but connect. Yes, I need to connect. You need to connect it. I'll put it in right away.
That is so adorable.
Yeah, there are there are evil men and women who use everything for evil, and sex can end up being one of those things. But for the most part, and it was probably like, I don't know, like the fourth time we had the sex and intimacy seminar, and the panel was talking, and I had this weird experience, which I think, the Queen's Code is channeled. So I have lots of weird experiences. But in this case, they were talking very explicitly. And this word literally came out of the ceiling, and it like came out and was like hitting me in the head. And the word was innocent.
You know that this was a word that I actually wrote down for us to specifically talk about.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What do you want to know about it?
Well, when it comes to innocence, I've discovered that it's also to do with authenticity, and people really expressing themselves is only possible when they're actually connected to their innocence. How do you feel about that, especially for men? Because I feel that there's historically a lot of punishment and a lot of shaming for men in different ways when it comes to trying to get close to women.
Wow, it's a great question. And
I've discovered that it's also to do with authenticity, and people really expressing themselves is only possible when they're actually connected to their innocence. How do you feel about that, especially for men? Because I feel that there's historically a lot of punishment and a lot of shaming for men in different ways when it comes to trying to get close to women.
wow, it's a great question. And one of the things that might help to understand is instinctually, it's not because we're bad, they're our instincts. As women, we tend to use sex strategically. There was a man actually who grew up in Italy, and I asked him what he loved about American women, and he said nothing.
Wow.
I was like, what? And he said they don't do anything for passion. That it's all strategic. And I could feel for him, right? A handsome man, came from a wealthy family. The objectification of him and a woman, trying to get him as her own, and the benefits of that, that's all instinctual behavior. And no instincts are bad. They're just purely for survival. And so, because of our tendency to use sex strategically to attract and keep and possess, if we can, make it official, we assume that men are strategic about sex. And we tend to not understand their sex drive. That basically, when a woman is ovulating, so for about 30 hours a month, that's as close as she's ever going to come to a man's sex drive. And their sex drive can be renewed depending on their testosterone levels, which is often related to their age and how much they exhaust themselves and recover. I mean, a man, his sex drive could be renewed in a half an hour or a half a month, right? It builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it breaks to the surface and it becomes distracting, the need for sex. But what you already said, between what it provides for them and that it just is a need, but so many men have been shamed that need is a perversion. I remember one man saying to me when I was talking about men's sex drive, he goes, "You mean I'm not a pervert?" Like he didn't know he's completely normal. Yeah, and so we can't see their innocence, their childlike desire to play and to please and to get wound up and have fun and lose control, for gosh sakes.
It's the best. It's the best.
That's what they think. which is why paying more attention to, do you feel safe to go to bed with this man, then do you have to have him and you're contorting yourself to please him? Two completely different results. If we feel safe, then we can express, we can explore, we can give a little direction, a little bit to the left. Slower, faster, harder. Don't stop. We can't express that if we don't feel safe with the other person.
Is there something to be said about when women strategize having sex in order to get to the next step with a guy? Because I believe a lot of young women are in this predicament where they believe once we've been in bed together, we'll also be together in a partnership. And I think this is widely misunderstood for a lot of women. What can it do to a woman long term if she is that strategic about sex?
Well, there's many ways that women would play that, right? So one is they have sex and then they initiate all the expectations that they have of what he's supposed to do now, which most men don't have those connected together. It's pretty antiquated. I've had sex with you. I'm obligated to marry you. And who wants to get married to someone who's feeling obligated to marry us in the first place? I mean, this was one of the most common questions that we had in our live workshops, especially the one about sex, was how soon is too soon to have sex to still end up in a committed relationship? And I can only remember one man responding to that question in years of doing this that had a reaction other than they're not related. And it's why I asked you if you've read Making Sense of Men. And we can give you a promotional code for your people to get that book for free, the ebook for free.
Yes.
I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
And
I'll put it in the show notes.
You're welcome. And it's because...
Hello and welcome. If you are new to this space, I'm just coming here to check in quickly if you've already hit that subscribe button, because it's actually really difficult to create your own podcast. And every episode takes about 40 hours of editing. I do everything myself. There is no team behind me. I don't use much AI. And I handpick every guest myself. And they are very genuine to come onto my show, and I feel incredibly privileged. But what would help me even more is to know that I contribute value, and I can only know that by you subscribing to this channel, because I know that I can keep this thing going. Thank you so much.
For a man, who they're going to marry is someone they care about and want to have sex with again. And again, and again, and again. So it's not the first time that creates this, right? It's a combination of mental and emotional and intellectual and even spiritual attraction and sexual attraction, which is what Making Sense of Men illuminates. Because instinctually, too many women lead with sex and think that sex is the whole story. And then they really end up hating men or feeling like, what's wrong with me that it isn't working? Mm-hmm. Well, it only works for what it works for. It's just a part of the equation. And both men and women instinctually scan for strength. Men scan for complementary strength. It's like, even at the level of sperm, men are team players.
What does that mean?
Well, there's a great book called Sperm Wars, and a scientist who studied sperm under a microscope and puts sperm from different men in the same petri dish and watch what happens. And he actually distinguished that it's a team sport. The big ones are the blockers, and then there's the runners, and then there's actually killer sperm. So some sperm attack other sperm, and some sperm are blocking to get theirs through, and then the runners are heading for home to get to the egg, and yay, our team won.
No way.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Wow.
And there's research even about why men are compelled to make a woman have a climax or think that they have before they ejaculate, because it changes the environment of the vagina to be more sperm friendly instead of acidic. And there's, oh gosh. And if his wife's been away and he knew she was around a lot of men, when she comes back, his sperm count will be way up to go to war just in case. And oh yeah, so much of how we think we're choosing to act is at a much more basic level. Back to the point, these natural team players, all the way down to their biology, they're scanning for complementary strengths. So they're looking for a partner who is good at what they're not good at, who's smart in ways they're not smart, who has abilities and talents that they don't have. And they're attracted to that because that's what's going to change the possibilities of their life. That's what's going to expand the possibilities of their life, is they have someone that when they're teamed up with them, we're unstoppable, right? But then they get into a pickle because that woman who's admired for how different she is can think less of him for not being the same as her. Instead of paying attention, how is he strong? How is he stronger than me? How is he stronger in ways that I'm not strong? And I'm so glad of it, right? We're better paired and admire each other. Because ultimately a man wants to partner with a woman he admires who admires him. And the filter that gets revealed in the Queen's Code prevents women from admiring men. And so no matter how smart and amazing and gorgeous they are, like Jack, right? Admiring Kim, but frostier than a shaken martini, right? He's not going to go near her. She obviously disdains him. So there's no possibility there, no matter how awesome he thinks she may be.
So it was through her
There's no possibility.
that
Yes.
she just couldn't see him. A really good way you described it that I picked up in the book is men are always trying to impress women, but women take away men's power preemptively because women believe a good offense is the best defense. And I found that statement so powerful. And can we discuss why women need to stop offending and to deep dive into the meaning of this statement?
Yes. So just want to put a pin in for you how Jack was relating to Kim that had her disdain him. It still had an innocence in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it became a challenge to provoke her. He never meant to frighten her. And when he found out he had, right? Like, oh no. Oh no. So just to loop that back around. And then before, when I was talking about, I had to learn what provokes women to diminish men, and then all the ways we diminish men, and then all the ways we justify that they deserve to be diminished and even punished. So what do you want me to elaborate on?
I think the filter that women have from that perspective of women think that the men are, how did you say it in the book? Like women.
Hairy, misbehaving women who
That's
know
it.
the right thing to do and are purposely not doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Men tend to think that women are a kind of man. They're a scattered, emotionally indulgent kind of man. And they think if they could just get us to focus and to not give so much power to our emotions and our feelings, then everything would be fine. And they're just as far off as us thinking a man is a woman who doesn't care about us or love us or respect us enough to do the right thing, which is clearly what a woman would have done. The filter we have that we're looking at each other through prevents us from seeing each other. it prevents men from seeing the paradox of women of enormous strength and courage and fear. And for women to see the paradox of men, that they're constantly, literally, they just are constantly resolving, are you someone that they would have to kill or someone that they would gladly die for? And they can go either direction, for a man, for a woman, for a child, for a cause, for a dog. They can go in either direction, that they would, without thinking, give their life for that creature, that human. Or they could be provoked in that something's got to happen with that person to protect their own life. I mean, this may sound awful to deal with such primitive instincts, but it's actually, when you do, you can start to see their beauty, their souls, how much they regulate themselves when their impulses are so big and so powerful.
I think it's beautiful. In the book you mentioned as well, I think it was Karen saying, oh, when my partner is like throwing away a racket or something, that means he's throwing that away instead of hitting me.
Yeah. I did a study on men in anger at one point. It was after I started taking bioidentical hormone therapy, which included testosterone. And my body was so depleted in testosterone that it had an overreaction. And so I had an extremely high level of testosterone for a woman. It would have been low for a man, but testosterone is radioactive for us. And I got angry at something, and it felt, I was looking out at the valley that I could see out my office window, and it felt like my body was an atomic bomb and it was going to explode and kill everyone in the entire valley and burn all the trees. And as I was feeling these sensations that were stunning to me, and like, and I thought, no wonder men are so proud of keeping a grip on this. and this is so much bigger. Like, they're scared of our rage monster, which I talk about on YouTube, the rage monster. They're scared of our rage monster because they think our rage monster is the tip of the iceberg, because they're controlling the rest of the iceberg most. And when they're provoked, right, they're just and so they think our rage monster is our tip of the iceberg. They don't know that's the whole thing. That was the volcano exploding. That's as big and as horrible as it gets. And we're so terrified by what's happening to us. Please save us. Don't run away from us. Please save us. Don't attack us. Don't try to fight us with truth and logic, please. Just say, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings. So when a man is frustrated and he starts raising his voice or swearing or cursing out something, or like you mentioned, the example of, having a wrench in his hand and throwing it. And we think that's so immature. And as the Queen's Code points out, men are protecting us even from their own anger. That's a disarmament. Throw away the weapon, minimize the damage I can do while I get a grip on this emotion that is overwhelming. Well, and I do distinguish anger as an emotion, not as a feeling. It's an emotion. It's energy in motion.
Yeah, that resonates. Whilst I haven't read the King's Code,
I haven't written the King's Code yet.
Oh, well, then I can't read it. Then I'm excused.
It's coming. Okay. It's coming through. Yeah. Well, I encourage Keys to the Kingdom. So it's Keys to the Kingdom, then the Queen's Code, and now I'm working on the King's Code. And I think there's another one called the Partnership Code down the line, but we shall see. I don't get to decide these things. They come through and I type as fast as I can.
Where do you think that you get the information from?
Spirit would be a good word for it. It occurs as if the characters live somewhere in their own universe, and they are who they are, and they have what they are to have to share. I don't control it. I'm the receiver, and then I edit for my typing mistakes and the way that my own use of words would interfere with what they were saying, and try to capture it. It's why I encourage people to listen to the Queen's Code, because I am recreating the movie that I watched, with the tone, with the intonation, the intensity, the emotion, the everything that the characters have as I was watching this movie. People have told us that I read it to them differently than they read it to themselves, because they were filtering the characters' voices by how they thought they were, and how I represented them was not how they thought they were.
And that comes back to the storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To talk a little bit more about the feminine power and also our spiritual growth, when it comes to stepping into the qualities of a queen, what would you say are like the top 3 things that a queen should possess?
Well, the first would be clarity about the qualities that you could say are hers to possess, that she's committed to embodying, that resonate with her spirit, that those are the words for the qualities that when she is embodying them, yes, this is me. This is myself. Right. And I remember even in my 20s, men saying, well, just be yourself, just be yourself. And when we did a focus group with some teenage girls, everybody tells us to be ourselves, but I don't know what myself is. And that's the good news and the bad news. Our instincts tend to give us a weak sense of self, but that's the instinctual side. Our connection to the eternal, and however you want to name that, if we look there for our sense of self, we can get clearer faster, especially in looking at, there's so many qualities that we might embody, and they have hidden powers, like compassion. People normally wouldn't be like, holy crap, that's so powerful. But when you encounter compassion and when you embody compassion, your ability to then see and understand and be more effective with other people is astonishing. And having compassion, as men mature, they see it more and more as the strength that it is. One of the reasons why I said something in the beginning about bliss, the Bliss Republic, bliss is a word synonymous with serenity. And men are in awe of serenity, of a woman who can be serene in the midst of everything life is throwing. That to them is, whoa. You can't overcome. Serenity can't be overcome. It might be given up, but it can't be overcome. And so talk about a complementary strength that they're looking for. Serenity would be one of them. I have a friend a colleague, she's amazing. And she's taught metaphysics and studied metaphysics and a whole bunch of other stuff. She was one of the originals at Microsoft. And what she asserts is we all have 12. We all have 12 qualities that would articulate different aspects of who we are as individuals and in partnership with other people, and who our tribe is. And discovering what those are, articulating what those are, and it's not just finding them. That's what's so beautiful about being human. We can invent who we are. We can choose a quality. And then one of the things we teach in our Being Extraordinary as a Man and as a Woman courses is after you choose the qualities that resonate for you, that move you to tears, that when you're that, like, okay, this is it. You take me now. Then what do you need it to get the feeling of those qualities in your body? It's very direct. It's actually really simple. And that's how my mind works, is reverse engineering. How do you be the person you want to be? We'll figure out who you want to be. And then what puts the feeling of those ways of being in your body. Now have those needs met so that you overflow as who you are. It's simple.
It's simple. Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
It takes enormous discipline, but it's simple.
So you also mentioned being a woman doesn't mean that you constantly have to be, I'm going to use the word fragile, but more being embodied as a strong woman and voluntarily choosing vulnerability.
Yes, we learned it from men. The question was, what attracts you to a woman to marry? And when the man responded this way, I think there were 3 other men on the panel that were nodding emphatically that he was right. And he was the one who said, a strong woman who's voluntarily vulnerable. And authenticity is the second most attractive quality to men, to care about a woman. And they almost always, I'd say 98% of the time that I've heard it, they use the word courage. So that's where the vulnerability comes from. When she has the courage to speak up, when she has the courage to be direct, when she has the courage to say what matters to her, when she has the courage to say what she needs, because they recognize that takes courage. You're exposing yourself when you tell someone what you need, and that takes courage. That's the vulnerability. And also you have the strength to reveal your vulnerability. Holy moly. And then they know, by us having the courage to speak up about what we need, they either know that they can't provide it. No, that's not me. Or they haven't been able to provide it, but they want to. That's their new challenge, is to learn how to meet that need. Or I can do that. She needs what I've got. Cool. Which is one of the things he has to believe to commit a lifetime to somebody. She needs what I've got. I've got what she needs. All right. It's one of the 12 things that makes someone the right person to marry, to commit to, future with.
Yeah, which comes back to the ability for a woman to directly state what she needs, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we think they should be mind readers, or we think they need what we need, so they should just know what we need, but they don't generally need what we need until you get much deeper than they do. But it's another reason why men often won't stop having sex until a woman is climaxed, because that's the release that he's needed for so much of his life. It changes as they get older. That's the release that finally resets sex drive. And so they think she needs that. And in our Understanding Women online course, what I talk about is I'm pro-choice orgasm. Honey, do you want to have an orgasm this time? Oh, that would be lovely, dear. And I'd like the kind that happens like this. Or no, let's take care of you, and then I want to go to sleep. Okay. Even to have that kind of clarity about what we need, because they project onto us. We say we're tired. They project sleep onto us. And they're astonished that we don't go to sleep when we're tired. They fall asleep when they're tired, wherever they are. Why? Because they feel safe everywhere. They don't know we have this whole process we have to go through to quiet our minds and be in a safe place to let go. I mean, talk about strong woman voluntarily vulnerable. She goes to sleep, right? They don't know how difficult that can be for us. What we mean by the words we use and the needs we express, we need to go further and say what it would look like to have that need met. Because we all jump to conclusions about meeting their needs, about them meeting our needs, and that we both already know. And they have a saying, there's no point in stating the obvious. State the obvious. The point is it's going to go a lot better. Even if you say, pardon me for stating the obvious, this is what it would look like.
Yeah, I think that a lot of women hold shame for being conditioned in a way where they think they're too much. They don't want to push someone away by putting too much of their chaos onto the man, being afraid that they may lose him. But then that's actually the requirement, the prerequisite to go further.
Well, yeah, he needs to know he can handle it. And you might have to tell him what works best. When I'm like this, if you could say that, if you could do that, if you could wait for me to reach for you. One of the things I adore about men is how committed they are to doing what works. And if something works, then it's worth trying again. If it works again, we might be onto something. If it keeps working, then it's locked and loaded. So we have to pay attention to, if we've asked them to do something and it's worked and now they're doing it and it didn't work, what's different about this so they know, in this case, do this instead. Right? For all those other situations, that was perfect, but this had this in addition. I was exhausted. I was sick as a dog. I was afraid you died. And nothing was going to calm me down. All these things can happen, and it causes what we need to be slightly or a lot different. Like in Understanding Women, we teach the difference between when a woman's feelings have been hurt or if a woman feels disrespected. And it's two different solutions. And you can have a double whammy. You can do something that hurts her feelings and has her be disrespected. So then you have to do both.
What pops into my mind, I recently had two men in my life that absolutely struggle with apologizing. I know apologizing is not easy, but why is it that men hesitate to apologize?
Well, first, we distinguish between apology and saying I'm sorry. In the dictionary, apologize means to acknowledge a wrongdoing and offer an explanation. You know, the dinner is late, something happened to the cook, and we'll be sure to adjust your tab for that. That would be an apology. I apologize for your meal being late. I apologize for not calling you on time. I'm sorry is for the effect. So I apologize for being late, and I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. And that you thought I was late because I didn't care. No, I was late because I was getting you these. It seemed more important than being on time. And I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And women always say feelings. We never say you hurt my feeling. We say you hurt my feelings. And I started to learn to communicate. Like, we have a pancake of feelings, a stack of pancakes. Sadness and joy and grief and compassion and like there's a stack of pancakes and you can pierce the whole stack. And then we're disconnected from ourselves, from our own spirits. So apologizing, I apologize, acknowledge wrongdoing, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how that affected you. They're very different. And most of the time, and this happened way too much, and creates an aversion, extreme aversion for a man to apologize, because most of the time his apology hasn't been accepted. The apology has been taken and used against him. Well, remember when? Well, you said, and you even apologized for having done that, and you're doing it again. So with the energy and the vulnerability, the exposure is a word that a man might use, that he feels really exposed when he's apologizing. It's a tremendous expenditure of energy. He will do it because he cares about that person. I just realized why someone will never apologize to me. I thought it was on. Okay. All right. That's good to know. It's good to know who cares and doesn't care about you, because different things can be asked for and expected. But to get back to my point, sorry for the insight in the middle of this, we call it the worth it calculation. I'm actually doing a course on September 20th called Feels Like Love, Looks Like Math. And the worth it calculation is one of the pieces that adds up to feels like love. And men more than women are acutely aware of the expenditure of time, money, resources, which could be connections, could be favors, it could be a tool or a supply of something. So time, energy, money, other resources, and what if they're gonna spend it on this, they can't spend it on all of that. So the opportunity costs as well. And they instinctually prohibited from acting if they don't see that it's going to be worth it. So if you want a man, for example, to take on saying, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, and that not being a death-defying act on his part or seeming like it, then when he does say, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, he's got to get more points for having done that than has cost him everything else to do it. Can you see it? It has to be worth it. And so if we use a man's apology or his I'm sorry, which is an expression of compassion, if we use it against him, and this has happened to most men by most women, right, starting with their mom, then they can't. And there are men who can't apologize to anybody else who can learn how to apologize to you, because when they say, that was wrong of me. Oh, wow. Thank you. You get 1,000 points for saying that, and I won't hold this against you. That doesn't mean you can't ever do it again. That's a natural thing to have done. So there's ways we can actually be safe for each other and acknowledging of each other and appreciative of each other that adds up. I call it an upward spiral, that we get more and more of what we need from each other.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's possible. It's possible for it to become exquisite, to become just pinch me. No, don't pinch me. I don't want to wake up from this. And to end up with more and more confidence as you see you're causing the spiral to go this direction instead of normal spirals go right down into the sewer.
Yeah. And I think that's where we have to hold ourselves accountable as women.
For our part, each of us for our part, and we tend to hold ourselves accountable for not our part. And men do as well. Men hold themselves accountable for making women happy. 95% of a woman being happy is up to her. And women will try to hold men to account for making them happy when they haven't done what they need to do to be able to be made happy. Like when you're really tired, nothing can make you happy. When your feelings are hurt, nothing will make you happy. We have to get ourselves to the place where we can be made happy. It's one of the things we teach in Being Extraordinary as a Woman. It's your job to bring yourself to this point. And then just a little bit of something that makes you happy can make you really happy. Happiness is like testosterone. It's radioactive for us. A little bit goes a long way.
And resolving things straight away, I believe, as well. Like not sitting on them for too long. Because I think where men go into I need, I get, women go into doing things, waiting until the very last minute. And I think sometimes we're a bit guilty of waiting with having arguments as well, and fostering or holding resentment, and then it just all explodes at once.
Yeah, I would say most human beings don't express what they need until they're more angry about not getting it or about what happened than they are afraid of telling the truth. We wait till the anger's bigger than the fear of telling the truth, both men and women. And it's So, because it takes courage. It takes courage to tell the truth. It takes courage to speak up and say what I need. It takes courage to say I'm sorry. All those things take courage. Yeah. So we wait till the anger is bigger than the fear until we communicate some of the most important things we communicate. And it was my late husband who taught me, then it's tinged forever. That communication is tinged forever with the anger. And it makes it very difficult to interact with. The anger is attached. So we actually defeat ourselves by waiting until we're that angry that we explode with expressing the truth. If we could do it sooner, more gently, with more courage, it would go much further in having a need be met, to have a truth be honored.
There goes that fear again of losing someone, instead of thinking that the disagreement can actually be an opportunity for more connection.
Yeah, and what if you can't possess them in the first place? So a fear of losing somebody is a misunderstanding in what's really going on. We have a course called Lux, which I encourage everyone to start with, where we start with the biggest myth about relationships. And how we think. We think there's a vault that's holding all the love that will carry us through the bad times. And it's holding all the mistakes and the upset and the anger and the blow ups. And we'll have to overcome them for a lifetime. And that vault is called our relationship. What if it doesn't exist? What if there's nothing perpetuating what's happened in the past, either the love or the bad stuff? What if there's nothing that's perpetuating that? It's up to us in this moment to perpetuate what we're committed to. If you want love to carry you, you better have love with you now. You can't rely on it from the past. And you don't have to overcome what came in the past. And it's one of the things I learned immediately about men is they're way more in the present than we are. Because of single focus, when they're present with us, they're present with us. And they respond to how we're being now, including if how we're being now is holding ourselves to account to a way that we were before. I apologize for being awful to you. And could we have a code word that you could say when I'm heading in that direction and I could stop myself in my tracks? Like, could we name that person who goes off like that? You have my permission to use that name when I do that, so I can bring myself up short. I had a conversation with someone extremely close to me a few days ago who interacted with me in a completely acceptable way. And I required an apology and he gave it. And then I said, how about we make a deal or maybe a code word? Like, if you ever do that again, I say, I'm going to hang up now. Call me back when you have remembered who I am. He laughed. He said, I think that will work very well.
It's a beautiful boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a whole other thing we've got to learn, Laura. What you let people do, you teach them to do.
Yeah.
Don't wait till they know you better to stand up for what you won't live without and what you won't live with. Don't wait. That's what Own Your Ultimatums is about. That's something else on our website, is Own Your Ultimatums. Mm-hmm. Don't present your ultimatums when you think they love you so much they'll submit to them. They'll capitulate resentfully. No, give them a chance to sort themselves out early. I can't live with that. Okay, let's not try.
That's fair.
It is. It's fair for us and for them.
Mm-hmm. I have a final question that I ask all of my guests. What is the most important thing that you have learned about love in your life?
Oh my gosh. Do you know how many times? Do you know how many decades I've spent on this subject? The most important thing that I've learned about love. Only one. Honest, can I give you two?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. If I can give you two, then I can settle for this. First would be, what if love is the only thing that's real? What if it's the only thing that's real? All the rest made up.
Wow.
Misperception. What if love is the only thing that's real? And what I've learned is how to cause love, how to cause yourself to feel love for someone else, how to cause yourself to feel love for yourself. What are the things that contribute to feeling loved? Like, oh, I feel so loved. Really? What do they do that has you feel so loved? We've found out, they give me things that are worth doing. They ask me for things that are worth doing. They appreciate me in the way I need to be appreciated, which is a whole thing to unpack. And there's also an element of deserving, that we feel like we've gotten as much as we deserve, where we haven't been shortchanged, we've been honored, and a little over the top.
And letting that in, hey?
Yeah.
Allison, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Bliss Republic podcast. If people would like to know more about your work, where can they connect with you?
The best place is AlisonArmstrong.com. I interact with the people in our online curriculum about 10 hours a month, answering questions and helping them implement what they're learning. And that's the only place you can get the Queen's Code audiobook, is on our website, and listen to it on our app. So that's what I would recommend. Our YouTube channel has lots of content, Alison Armstrong videos. That's where the goodies are. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you skip, if you're craving real conversations, cutting through the noise like a truth blade, the Bliss Republic podcast is where we drop the masks, unpack the human experience, and explore the deep stuff like connection, courage, grief, authenticity, alignment, and yeah, the messiness too. But here's the truth. Each episode is hand-built by me. No team, no editing crew, and no ChatGPT. Just me, a microphone, and about 40 hours of sweat, soul, and realness. So if that resonates, if you want content made with actual intention and not just an algorithm, then please subscribe to the Bliss Republic podcast. It's free, it's real, and every subscriber helps me keeping this wild thing going. Hit that subscribe button below so I can see you for more episodes.